Now that we know what responsive design actually is, let's look at a few different approaches and some examples of really, really well done responsive design on the internet. And since this class is specifically web design, I'm not going to be talking about app responsive design, which usually takes into account things like vertical display versus horizontal display, size of your phone, etc. We're just going to be talking about it in a web context, so keep that in mind. So I have three examples here, and the first example is Headspace.com, and Headspace is an app that is a very popular, basically meditation timer and guided meditation, audio recordings, etc. And this is a really, really popular app that has made a lot of money for basically one individual who created this whole system. It's kind of a great startup story as far as an app goes. So here we have the Headspace website. It's got this great illustrated style. There's this animated cloud. Not sure if you can see that, but it kind of floats back and forth. We have your typical menu at the top where we can select different things, and it'll take us to those pages and talk about these different topics. But we're just going to be talking about the main page, which as I scroll, you can see it has sort of an advertisement about what the app does, what their service does. It's got these great illustrations, different calls to action here, and then some references at the bottom, and then your typical sitemap at the very bottom of the page. So we're looking at this on a large laptop screen. This is a Retina display, so very high resolution. We're going to start making it smaller and see what happens. So immediately you notice it kind of jerks as I start making it smaller, and some of these illustrations get closer together. And what this tells me is that these illustrations are not just one big picture. Right? This isn't just one big image. These are in fact little smaller graphics that are overlaid on top of each other. And as I start to collapse this in, we're going to see that those illustrations move and are swapped out. So we had this size, which is about half screen, to smaller than half screen. Once we move to smaller than half screen, notice what happens to the menu. So the menu items before at full screen, all side by side, log in, sign up for free, and then the menu items. As I move this in, menu items move down, but they're still present. Login and sign up still, right, that's our most important thing. We want them to click that. That's still really present. And then as we get below half, the menu items disappear. Headspace logo moves to the middle. Menu items move to the left to a hamburger menu that you can select and view. Everything in the middle kind of shrinks down. And as we keep going smaller, these illustrations are going to eventually disappear. So this is more of a phone size now, about a quarter screen width. And as you can see, the illustrations have disappeared completely from the main section. Now we still have the important content, sign up for free, subscribe now, we can still get to this menu. But notice whenever we scroll, it's the same content but just a little bit differently laid out. So this is now on top of this, whereas before I think this was to the right. Yeah, to the right. We do the same thing here. So we're kind of vertically reorienting everything and removing some of the excessive content, because if we had all these illustrations, right, it might be too busy if we keep squishing them in more. So this is a really great example of different stages in responsive design. So full screen, towards a smaller screen, to half screen, to then eventually a mobile version. Really, really, really well done. I'm going to make this full screen again, and we're going to look at the next example. So this is a product page. So what I just showed you was kind of more of a startup sort of sign-up call to action. This is a purchasing call to action, right? We're trying to get them to purchase this product, and this is like a sous vide kitchen appliance. It's used to basically heat water. They also have a really beautiful website where, as I scroll, these different words pop up for what you can cook with it. There's some videos, some other content, some more videos, testimonials. All right. Top of the screen, we have our menu. Then we have an additional menu. This is kind of different accessories and versions of our device. We have our sign in and purchase and cart up here. Let's start making it smaller. Now this one's a little bit different approach. Some of the menu items are going to disappear whenever we get smaller. Notice from here we have the Joule app. Whenever I get a little bit smaller, that one disappears. I think they're thinking that that's less important right now. And then we have the full menu, which then disappears whenever I get a little bit smaller and turns into this hamburger style menu. And as I keep going, we're going to see that this side by side is going to pop into a vertical station. So now we have vertical orientation of our website. And then as we keep going, it's going to all sort of snap in place. Let's scroll down. So we have that same image as before, but we're just seeing it in a different way, right? So we're not seeing this person cutting mushrooms. We're just seeing the actual product whenever we're in a smaller version. We have some reviews here, see it in action. So it kind of reduces the busyness of the page. And again, just like how Headspace did, it verticalizes everything. But I think a really important thing here is how they changed the image, right? So they decided not to just resize the image, but to actually crop it in for the smaller screens. Additionally, we're moving the image of the product above and reorienting all of this. So another really good example of how you might approach this if you were selling a product. It's really deciding what factors are important and which ones are unimportant. The last one we're going to look at is a video game website for a game that came out a few years ago called Firewatch, which I always thought had a really beautiful website. And the website's changed over the years, so it's a little bit different than whenever it first came out. But at the top, we have the developer's name, Campo Santo, and then we have their other games and development blogs and stores and things like that. We have this great background with the logo. As we scroll, we have this really awesome parallax effect. Parallax is sort of a difference in motion to create an illusion of depth. If you take an animation class, we'll be talking more about that. So as I scroll, it kind of covers up the title, moves down and shows the information about the game. Here's a trailer, some reviews, pictures, things like that. And we get to the bottom where we have their trademark information. So let's scroll back up. So this parallax effect is so nice, but what's going to happen whenever we start shrinking down the page? So as we shrink the page, it still keeps that effect. Let's scroll down and see if anything's changed. It's just kind of squished everything together. But there's a really interesting, right, this is our focal point right here. It's really interesting whenever we get small enough, what's going to happen is that guy's going to move. I'm going to go a little bit smaller. And where he disappears, suddenly it reorients, and now that little character is here. We no longer have that parallax effect because honestly that effect is really hard to do on mobile. So this is the mobile version of the website now. They've reoriented everything vertically, right? Resized things. They're still able to fit all their menu stuff up here. If we keep going, it disappears. They figure, it's not that important. Let's not have it on there. As we scroll down, we get some different information. Again, different sizing and placement. We place these 4 images top to bottom instead of side by side whenever we click them. We get a slightly different effect than whenever we do at a larger size. So this is, I thought, just a really cool website, but also a cool example of limiting your functions. So we have this function right now, and whenever we get smaller, we're going to take that functionality away, but still have that great effect, right? Still have that great visual. So what are some basic principles we can take away from this for our own websites? Definitely think about the content on your page and what's most important and what's least important. Think about how you're going to reorient background images, right? All of these are dealing with different imagery and how we're going to reorient that imagery or crop it down or change it to a vertical style. So keep that in mind. Also keep in mind how to deal with menus. What menus are really important, right? The login and the sign up is really important here, so we're going to keep those more prominent. We have those right here, but we're going to smush this into a hamburger style menu. That's fine. In this case, right, it completely disappears. So these are all things to keep in mind whenever you're redesigning your website with a responsive mindset.